Everyone, thanks for stopping by the channel. Today, this is going to be part 3 of the rise of pay-to-play in U.S. youth soccer and the rise of the paid youth coach. Okay, and I'm going to backtrack a little bit from part 2, and because I need to fill in why the explosion of so many paid youth coaches was happening. Okay, and I think I left off in part 2. We were around 1998 to the end of the 90s, and I told you where how it was happening. Let me talk about why it was happening. Okay, and I'll take you back to 1992 because it's sort of the tip of it. Now, we already obviously knew that the U.S. World Cup was being held in '94. We still did not have a professional league, but it was on the blueprint and was getting finalized. And more importantly, in February of 1992 was the birth of the English Premier League, which kicked off on August 15th of 1992. Now, why is this important? Because with the rise of that break-off league that was still part of the English pyramid, we were also getting more access to English soccer in the U.S. And the hunger was building, okay? And in 1993, the U.S. hosted the U.S. Cup, okay? It was a tournament that used to happen. They would invite 3 teams from overseas, and, they would have a mini tournament, okay? And it had been going on since like 1991. But, so they brought the English national team over, okay? And the U.S. actually beat England up in New England with a Lexi Alala's header, and then they came down to D.C. to play Brazil. Now, I wormed my way into being the liaison for the English Federation in the D.C. area, okay? I stepped up and filled a hole with initiative and made sure they had all their, let's say, recreational itinerary covered, because U.S. Soccer had done jack crap for them, Germany or Brazil, for the D.C. area, okay? And I grew up 10 miles from D.C. I knew every place. So I made sure that they got hooked up at Washington Harbor, were able to attend nice restaurants with, nice weather on the water at Sequoias and Tony and Joe's, etc. But that time I spent with them, I ingratiated myself with the English Federation. I met tons of players. I think I've mentioned before that Paul Merson was here, and in his book he talks about jumping up and down on a car in Georgetown. That was me that had to get him off. I did things very discreetly, and basically I made myself invaluable to the Federation, which resulted in me having invitations to go to England and get my badges there. And I made friends with some players that I kept in touch with for several years, but more importantly, the Federation could do a lot for me. I'm going to stop that part of the story there, but needless to say, I kept postponing it and did not end up going until different path I took. So we have the 93 Cup, U.S. Cup, which brought excitement, and all 3 of those teams were supposed to be back in 94 for the World Cup here in the U.S. And because I had done such a good job for the English Federation, I was going to be their liaison for the entire World Cup, and my world would have absolutely changed. And of course, they failed to qualify. Okay, why am I even mentioning that story and name dropping? I want to tell you about the excitement that was happening from 92 to the 94 World Cup, and knowing we were going to get our own pro league, which was originally supposed to kick off the year after the World Cup and got postponed to 96, which opened up with an Eric Ronaldo goal against DC United in the very first match ever played for MLS. But in that time period, everyone's thinking, wow, soccer is the biggest thing ever, and we finally rediscovered it here in the U.S. for the 80th time. And now we're going to have a league again, and it's never going to fail, and we have this closed market, and we'll make sure the finances are there. But that just bred excitement for all these soccer people that didn't really have leagues to aspire for. And we still didn't have the women's game sorted out, but more and more girls were playing, obviously. So all that excited in the early 90s through the mid with everything happening was just fueling the idea that we need to get paid coaches to make our kids better so they can get a spot in the professional leagues that are surely going to grow out of control, and next thing you know, it's going to be the NFL. Of course, that was the ambition. They hired an NFL guy in Garber to run the league, right? And dreams are great to have, but it wasn't working out that way, was it? But anyway, that's why the explosion. Look at all this excitement. It's the next big thing. Our kids can become professionals. They don't have to play football, baseball, or basketball, or hockey, because even hockey was growing in the 90s, and we were getting more than Gretzky and Lemieux as millionaires. I think Ray Bourque of the Boston Bruins was the 3rd millionaire contract for the NHL. That's in the 90s, early 90s, but still. So you remember what MLS was making? Well, parents didn't know that at the time that it was going to be such low pay, and they thought there would be multiple spots for professional, kids to play. So I was a part of that. I saw different clubs, and I remember when I was first hired as a paid coach, I may have said this in a previous video, there was a division of 10 teams, 2 had paid coaches. 5 years later, every team in that top division had a paid coach. And this was the girls' teams I'm talking about. Okay, the boys were even fueling it faster, and even in our club. So everyone was getting one. Okay, because you wanted to keep that trainer just for yourself. And unfortunately, a lot of the coaches were very good trainers. They just weren't necessarily great soccer coaches as far as tactics and things like that to make individuals better mentally and tactically, because that's a different art form from somebody who teaches technique. And it's great when you find someone that can do everything, sort of like me. I'm just kidding. I'm sure I have weaknesses. One of them is cake. But as far as tactical and ability to take this player and make them better using their natural gifts and adding to it, I've always had a good track record of developing players like that. Because the reality is, you don't make Messis or Ronaldos. Those are generational players. You have to find them, okay? And that means looking. But you don't make those. You make sure they have the environment to thrive on their own. But you can make very good players great. It's just that those natural ones, that's a different arena, and I have arguments for the last 35 years with U.S. youth coaches about it. So I'm going to stop right here for today, but this is part 3, and hopefully I've explained to you that excitement, or you get an idea of what was fueling the growth of the paid coach there, of why they would do it too. Okay? I'll see you in the next part. Take care. Everyone, thanks for watching the previous video. I'll keep this short, but thank you for making it this far. And if you have, I would ask you to maybe click the links below that explain our family situation. My family needs help. My wife has stage 4 leiomyosarcoma, and everything is in ruins. We're about 14, 15 months into this, and there's a little bit of light at the tunnel, but we could use some help, whether it's a $5 donation or something else, or sharing. But please click the GoFundMe link below to read the story. You do not have to donate, but just please consider it and read about our journey, because it's been a hard one, and I have a 10-year-old daughter that we need to worry about too. So thank you for watching the video. Have a great day.